So I have a few other thank yous. I want to say thank you to the morons who put up that sign across the way. It says, "We say no to your white supremacist bullshit." Well, I say thank you because I also say no to white supremacist bullshit. And if you stick around long enough in this speech, you will hear me do exactly that. The problem is I also say no to your identity politics bullshit. Thanks to Antifa and the supposed anti-fascist brigade for exposing what the radical left truly is, all of America is watching because you guys are so stupid. It's horrifying, I am grateful, and you can all go to hell, you pathetic, lying, stupid jackasses. The same goes for the mayor of the city, who has suggested that Antifa occasionally be given free reign over the city and that conservatives should go home because we wouldn't want to provoke violence. I do want to actually thank the administration for making the effort to put on this event tonight. There were a lot of obstacles, and I'll talk about the obstacles in a little bit, but they did attempt to make the effort, and they did unshackle the police to actually protect this. So thank you to the administration for doing that. I saw a lot of headlines on the way here about how it was going to cost $600,000 in security for this event. And that is not due to me. I mean, I'm not the one out threatening to break windows. It's not due to you. You're here listening. It's due to the Antifa hard-left morons who are out there breaking windows. And I do want to say one thing, which is that in a city as left as Berkeley, if you're going to blame me for the $600,000 in spending on security, you're all Keynesians. Think of all the jobs I just created. Now, this lecture is titled "Say No to Campus Thuggery." That's the title of the lecture because of Antifa and the wave of violence that has engulfed this campus since earlier this year. I spoke here last year. Some of you may remember. I was here last year. Okay, I spoke in like February 2016 here. Nothing, right? I mean, it was a packed house. I had 2 security guards. That was it. No violence, no nothing. And now we are spending well into 6 figures so that I can say many of the same things. Okay. It's utterly absurd. It's utterly absurd. But things have changed. Well, why have they changed? It's because there's a pathetic new movement arising all over the country, from Sacramento to Berkeley to Dallas to Charlottesville, and that movement says that speech is violence and must be treated as such. This is groups like Refuse Fascism. Don't worry, I'll get to the alt-right later. This is groups like Refuse Fascism, which professes to promote protest, but has actually said it won't rule out working with groups like Antifa. Here is the poster that they put out earlier about me. I don't know who designs their posters, but guys, this is too many words. Bad logo and bad imagery, just poorly done. They say on this that the problem is not campus thuggery. For those of you who can't see, it says, "No, Ben Shapiro, the problem is not campus thuggery. The problem is fascist intellectual thuggery in the service of the Trump-Pence fascist regime." Well, to believe this, you have to have your head so far up your ass you can actually see your colon firsthand. Let's define a few terms. First of all, fascist intellectual thuggery. Let's start with fascism. What exactly is fascism? Well, this is a term that gets thrown around a lot by people who have never read a book. Okay, fascism is the phenomenon whereby people believe that they have the capacity to ram their beliefs down your throat at the point of a gun, or say the point of a baton, or by throwing Molotov cocktails. That's what fascism truly is. Fascism is even more of a tactic than it is an ideology. It's sort of vague in terms of ideology. You've had people on the left who are fascist. You know, people like Stalin, and then you've had people who are on the European right, like Hitler, who is a fascist, who is actually closer to the traditional American left than he would be to the traditional American right. But I've been spending my entire career standing up against fascism and the idea of an overreaching government that uses the power of the gun in order to compel people to do what they want. Antifa is fascist. I am not a fascist. And as far as the service to the Trump-Pence fascist regime, first of all, I just want to note something. For all the talk about Trump and Pence being fascists, like, look at the protests outside. Where's Orange Hitler shutting it down? Right? He's nowhere to be found. This idea that we're living in a fascist country, we're actually living under a relatively ineffectual regime, a relatively ineffectual administration, if anything. But the idea that we're living in some sort of fascist dystopia is utterly absurd. As far as the idea that, I'm a white supremacist in service to Trump-Pence, a couple problems there. One, as far as the service to Trump-Pence, again, I didn't vote for Trump or Hillary. I didn't vote for either of them, actually. So this idea that I am somehow a servant of Trump is absurd and requires you to be functionally illiterate. As far as the idea I'm a white supremacist, you see the thing on the top of my head, right? This funny hat. It's called a yarmulke. Hey, white supremacists aren't that fond of it, which is why I was, according to the Anti-Defamation League, the #1 recipient of white supremacist anti-Semitism on the internet among journalists in 2016. But no, I'm a white supremacist now. Because this is the way the left works, right? If you don't agree with them, everyone's a white supremacist. You're a Nazi, Nazis should be punched, and therefore it's totally fine to stand outside and try to shut down events if you can get away with it. They're not getting away with it tonight because the police have been allowed to actually do their jobs. So what is their specific objection to me? Well, according to this masterfully done poster, it says, Shapiro is coming to campus to spread ugly fascist views, dressed up in slick-talking intellectual garb. I do like the slick talking. It says, this is harmful, exclamation point. He, along with fascists of many stripes, have targeted Berkeley because reversing Berkeley's radical history would be a major advance for the consolidation of fascism on campuses everywhere and throughout society. The reason I'm here, I've been asked this a lot, the reason that I am here is because fascism does not own this university. Because there are students who do want to hear differing views, who don't want to be told that they can only hear one view, who don't believe that the First Amendment should die under the jackboots and Birkenstocks of a bunch of anarchist communist pieces of garbage. But I don't just want to talk about the people who actually get violent, because I think that in the civil society, this is one thing we should all agree on, and I've been pleased to see that even people like Nancy Pelosi have condemned Antifa. Nancy Pelosi, with whom I disagree on literally every issue it is possible to disagree on, including the proper use of Botox. But she and I agree on this. Right? We all agree that violence should be out of bounds, and if you're on the left and you don't agree with that, let me suggest to you that you don't belong living in a civilized society. Because civilized society is based on the premise that the government has a monopoly on the legitimate use of force, as Max Weber put it, and the idea that you're supposed to violate that if you don't like what I'm saying makes you an uncivilized barbarian. Okay, but it's not just that I want to talk about. Okay, I want to talk about an ideology that goes a little bit deeper than that. Antifa couldn't go anywhere without an ideology that runs broader than Antifa, without a group of people willing to look the other way. Well, what is the view that undergirds Antifa? What's the view that undergirds the hard left, many of whom celebrate Antifa or were doing so until it became politically unpalatable to do so? It's a view that America is a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad place. Right? Now, the truth is that America is an incredible place. It's the greatest place in the history of the world. It is the freest, most prosperous country, the most tolerant country in the history of planet Earth. This country is an incredible place full of opportunity. Nobody, by and large, cares enough about you to stop you from achieving your dreams. That includes you, people who are shouting out there in the audience. Okay, no one cares about you. Get over yourselves. I don't care about you. No one cares about you. No one's trying to stop you because you're irrelevant to me. I have a wife and 2 children. I care about them. I don't care about you. You don't mean anything to me. Well, except for that guy who said he loves me. I love that guy too. But everybody else, okay? That means in a free country, if you fail, it is probably your own fault. If it is somebody else's fault, if somebody is actually trying to throw up obstacles in front of you in a way that is unjust and bigoted, point out the specific instance so we can all side with you. We all want to be on the same side. We all want to help out. When somebody is a racist and trying to stop you, we all want to sound off and stop that too. The idea, however, that America as a whole owns your failure when you can't point to specific problems does not wash. It is you shifting the buck. It's a waste of time and energy blaming your failures on the system unless you've got some evidence. But unfortunately on college campuses, and for the left more broadly, there's been this notion that America is bad, and the reason that you fail is because America has historically been very bad. Right? This is the identity politics of the left. Because America's bad in that it targets you. Right? America targets you. And we have an entire hierarchy of intersectionality that's been built by the left to tell you whether your views are legitimate or not. I mean, the more victimized you are, the more legitimate your views are. So the hierarchy goes something like this. The people whose views are most valuable and who have been most victimized. At the very top are people who are LGBT, and then you get black people, and then you get women, and then you get Hispanic people, and then you get Native Americans, and then you get Asians, and then you get Jews maybe above Asians, maybe Jews, then Asians, and then the very, very bottom, you get straight white males, right? Those are the people who have nothing to say about anything because obviously they are the beneficiaries of this white privilege system. Now, the logic of intersectionality, because it suggests that the value of your opinion lies in your ethnic identity, in your group identity, the idea is that if I attack your ideas, if I say that you have bad ideas, what I am really doing is attacking you personally. I'm really attacking your identity. I'm aggressing you. You might require counseling. Right? This is the philosophy of microaggressions. My words are violence. Even the term microaggression suggests that it is an aggression against you, right? Microaggressions, I am aggressing you. It's an act of violence. As NYU social psychologist Jonathan Haidt has said, microaggressions are small actions or word choices that seem on their face to have no malicious intent, but that are thought of as a kind of violence nonetheless. The thing is, you don't actually have to intend to offend anyone to microaggress them. They just have to feel offended. And the thing is that microaggressions are actual violence. This is why you see the dolts outside shouting that speech is violence, because they think that I'm actually doing them violence when they don't hear me.